What's up, you beautiful person, and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Micah, and we talk tips, perspective, and all other types of shit so you can live freely in reality. Alright, so it is your boy Micah. So before we get into this week's video, I wanted to just quickly say my mom's doing a lot better. She's not 100%, so to the people who did ask, she is doing a lot better. And you know, hopefully we'll continue to try to work towards getting her to 100%, you know, but it's just kind of a play it by ear at this point to kind of see what happens, see what we can do for her. As far as this week's video, it wasn't really like a planned topic. I just been seeing some stuff online, and you know, with everything going on with my mom, I hadn't really been able to take a moment to sit down, record, you know, research really thoroughly and kind of like write out things that I wanted to say. So this is kind of a little bit more free-handed. Hopefully though, we can open up a conversation and I can get your thoughts and we can have a productive conversation on this topic. So before I get into it, I want to say again quick, I'm not against anybody who detransitions. I'm not against people who transition and they say they don't have gender dysphoria. I honestly don't care. But I will say that this is quite concerning to me as a transgender man, because of the fact that I can kind of see a lot of the points that people who, when we have such lax parameters, right, on what we consider to be transgender, when we have such relaxed and we want to be so inclusive to everybody, I feel like this is what you get. And I feel like this is why a lot of people in the transgender community want to be transphobic. I know that's, and maybe you guys might put that label on me, hopefully not, because I really want to open up the conversation here. But anyway, there's this woman from the UK, and I'll link the article down in the description. This happened just recently, about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. She was a woman, her name was Kiara Bell. She's 23 years old. She basically sued and won, where now in order for, in the UK, for, you know, they won't provide hormone blockers or medical treatment to people under 16, which they weren't really doing anyway, so I'm a little confused about that. But anyway, 16 or under, and if they are going to have any type of medical treatment, then they have to have a court order in order to get medical treatment. And the thing is that kind of is frustrating about this case from my perspective is that this is a grown person now, which she was put on hormone blockers at 16. Okay, that doesn't really, that's not going, that just stops puberty, that slows your puberty down, so you're not getting anything. Once you get off those hormone blockers, your regular hormones, boop, and you start going through puberty. Okay, but at the age of 18, because it says about a year and a half or so later, when she turned 18, she started taking testosterone. And she essentially blames the medical community for saying, well, they should have challenged her more on wanting to transition. They should have done X, Y, Z. Like, she blames everybody essentially for her decisions. And I feel like I want to also take a moment to note that this is why I feel, and if you watch my other videos when I talk about when I came out or when I started transitioning, I took time to myself away from the internet, away from influences, in order to make the best decisions for myself, as well as extensive therapy before making the decision to start medically transitioning. Okay, so this woman went through top surgery, which a double mastectomy at the age of 20. Okay, at the age of 20, so that you're an adult. Granted, you're maybe not, you know, as farsighted at that age, but you're still an adult. 18, you're still considered an adult. You can legally get credit cards, buy a car. You can make all these different financial decisions. You can make long-term decisions at 18. Should you be making them is not really the point of, or the kind of the topic of conversation, but you legally can make these decisions for yourself. Now, here is where I feel like this case in particular is a huge, I feel it's a huge case that kind of proves in the US, and I made a video not that long ago about transmedicalism, and I think that this right here is exactly what a lot of trans people in the United States, and I'm sure now in the UK, but I'm speaking specifically for the United States, but it's that situation there that makes people in the US very concerned, because in the trans community, I feel like we try so hard to be inclusive because we know what it's like to not be accepted. So I feel like we try to be inclusive, and we try to make it so that, there's no parameters. There's no, you just have to, you just have to say that you're trans, or you just have to, there, you got some people that say you need gender dysphoria to be transgender. Other people will say you don't. And quite honestly, I feel like this is kind of the scary thing about the internet, is that, people become influenced by what they watch, by what they see, by what they hear. You can pretend all day long that you are not, but to some degree, we are all influenced by what we watch, by what we partake in, and what we allow into our mental space and our energy. We give our energy to, right? And I feel like this case right here, and again, I'm not mad at the fact that she's detransitioning. I'm not mad at the fact that she made a mistake. I'm not upset with her. That was her life. That was her. What frustrates me about a lot of people that I've personally seen on the internet, and now with this big case, is that people who detransition want to blame other people for their decisions. At the end of the day, you are an adult. You made those decisions. Okay, yes, you should have taken it upon yourself. Yes, these medical practitioners and all of these people are there to aid us in our transitions, to aid us in our health, to aid us and to try to give us the best information as possible to make the best possible decisions. But nobody has a crystal ball to see the outcomes of those decisions, and that's why it's very important to understand what you're looking for out of transitioning, to really do your due diligence in soul searching yourself. And I personally think that finding a reputable therapist who is going to challenge you and who is going to get you to really look deeply into your traumas. And I only say that because in this article specifically, she talks about her own specific traumas that she feels what led her to transition to begin with. There's another person on YouTube who I'm not trying to clout chase nobody, but there's another person on YouTube who had a very similar situation and completely transitioned and then said, I didn't want this, and I wish I would have been in therapy much longer. But the thing is that, I feel like it's kind of ignorance and disingenuous to blame now therapists, to blame the medical people, because at the end of the day, nobody put a gun to your head and forced you to transition. I've seen videos online where people are telling people how to get around things in therapy so that they can get letters written for them. I've seen people online telling other people in trans groups how to go about tricking people into getting letters written for them, and I don't agree with it because of things like this. Now, yes, detransitioners is a very, very, very small percentage of the population. Trans people in general are a very small population of people, even though there has been research that's shown that transgender people have kind of risen in percentages of how many people are transitioning, right? But at the end of the day, even though it's a small percentage of people who are transitioning, they're still people. They're still people, so it doesn't really matter how big or small that percentage is, right? So I think that this case here proves that, I guess, kind of proves the fear of why a lot of people in the community are afraid to, or not afraid, or who I guess come off as transphobic, but they're not really being transphobic, or they're afraid of being trans, or like they want to put other trans people down. I think it's the fear of, they may be able to be outside looking in and look at that person and say, maybe you need to talk to a therapist a little bit more deeply. Maybe you need to talk more, really like get through your traumas and stuff like that. I also think that it's kind of interesting that we live in this society that makes it such a stigma to have mental illness. And why do I say that? Because I know there's a lot of trans people out there who believe that being transgender is a medical illness because of gender dysphoria. I know people will say not all trans people have gender dysphoria, and although I can agree with that to an extent, because I personally believe if you don't have gender dysphoria, or you don't feel the need like something is wrong with you, or you don't feel like you want to look a certain way, or you want to be a certain way, you want to walk the world in a certain way, then what is your need to transition? That's my belief. It doesn't mean I love people any less. I love everybody. I want to see everybody happy. I want to try to help as many trans people and just people in general out there that I can. But I feel like this case right here is very concerning, because look how quickly and swiftly, when somebody who made their own mistakes because they were listening to other people telling them what to do, and not only listening to people who, that were telling them what to do to get certain, procedures done, not only with the influence that they had, but also that one person essentially who could not live with the mistakes. And I'm air quoting mistakes because I don't look at transition as a mistake, but I know that I did my due diligence. I'm happy with, and not everybody feels that way, but I feel like this is why it's important to have a reputable therapist that you can really talk to, that can really help you get through things. Because look at how this one person in the UK, in a system that is already difficult for trans people to get the care that they're in need of, is now being pushed back even further, where they can't, because one person, spewed this narrative of, well, you should have pushed harder, you should have done this, you should have done that, when in reality you are responsible for yourself. And I'm saying this out there, if you're out there who you're maybe new to transitioning, or you're new to transgender people, or you're just still finding yourself, like, take your time. Like, don't listen to all these people on YouTube. Don't even listen to me. Listen to yourself. Listen to your heart. Listen to your soul. Speak to a medical professional who can help you. Why is there such a stigma anyway on if it is a medical illness? And I'm not saying that I believe that. I mean, I would say I kind of, and a part of me believes that it is, and a part of me does not. And we can have that conversation in another video. But even if it was considered, if you want to consider it a medical illness, or a mental condition, why is that such a stigma around it? I have bipolar disorder. Why do we have such stigmas around mental illnesses? If you have a condition, you get it fixed, and then that's it. You're good to go. Like, it shouldn't be such a bad thing to have any type of situation like that. Now, again, like I said earlier, we can have that conversation on a later video. I just really want to speak more specifically about detransitioning, and the medical community, and also this narrative that I see a lot of people pushing of, well, there doesn't need to be any, parameters on what it means to be trans. There doesn't need to be gatekeeping or policing or being transphobic. And I can agree with that to a certain extent. It is your body. It is your choice. But see, you have certain people who make these decisions about their own body, and they have their own choice. And then they get mad at other people for their choices, and now they ruin it for everybody else. And I think that's why a lot of people have this idea where, we have to have some parameters in place on what it means to be trans, because now you have so many younger people, who are coming online, coming to YouTube, coming to, looking at blogs, going on Reddit, going on TikTok, going on all these different social media platforms, looking for answers, and I will say this always if you've ever listened to my podcast, but the answers are always inside of you. You just need to discover them for yourself. Don't listen to other people to find the answer for your life. Okay, I'm real fired up about this topic because, I think that we need to do better as a community. We need to do better. How do we get the treatment that we need? How do we get the respect that we need? How do we get how do we be fair to everyone? How does everybody get their needs met? And I feel like that's I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like this case right here is kind of just the start, or kind of, this case here just proves why it's a sad situation, why we need some of the parameters that we have in place. Because again, you have these people who now are looking to social media, looking to influencers to tell them who they are, and to give them advice, and then they take that advice and they don't sit on it, they just kind of do. And now you want to turn back and blame the system that is designed to help you, but you blame them because you didn't give it time for them to help you. So I think it's an unfortunate situation because, like I said, the UK already has some stringent, they have some stringent policies in place already, and it's such a, everybody, because they have, subsidized healthcare, free healthcare and all that stuff, they're already in a situation where it's difficult for them to find care. And I think this is like a case here that shows, one, we need to do better at but educating people to make decisions for themselves and being able to be accountable for their own decisions. Because now you have people who will turn back and say it's somebody else's fault. You were 20 years old when you got when you had top surgery. That was your decision. You could have said no. You could have thought about it more, but no, you saw what other people were doing and wanted to do what other people were doing instead of finding what was right for you. So what's the point I want to make in this video? Like I said in the beginning, I didn't really have anything planned. I just recently came across this case and was really like intrigued by it, and I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are, and kind of just open up the conversation on it. But also because I wanted to make the point that, look, no matter what I say here, no matter what any other YouTuber is telling you, TikToker, Instagrammer, whatever, who's trans, you know, yes, transitioning is a beautiful thing for those who need it, for those who want it, and for those who are willing to make sacrifices to go down this path and be willing to accept responsibility and accountability for their actions and their decisions that regard in transition. And, you know, really just take your time and learn about yourself. And like I said, like, it's okay to talk to a therapist. It's okay to, you know, really dig deep on who you are as an individual. It's also okay to experiment and to, you know, learn different things about yourself. It's okay to, in my opinion, you know, it is okay to do certain surgeries or take hormones and things of that nature. It's okay because you can, but you have to understand that if it winds up turning out to not be what you want it to be or what you thought it was going to be, you cannot put that on anybody but yourself, because it's your decision at the end of the day. These doctors, these therapists even, yes, they have a lot more educational training and medical training than I do here on YouTube. And this is not necessary. I'm not telling you what to do either way, because, you know, do whatever the fuck you want. You're an adult if you're watching this, you know, but, you know, it's scary because now I look at what's happening in that country, you know, in the UK, and what's happening there and how that's going to affect, you know, other trans, you know, teenagers who are going into adulthood. It's going to affect them. It's already affecting trans adults there. And it also concerns me for what that could mean if it just takes one person to do that in the UK. What would that mean for the US? For where we live, right? What would that do for us here if you have people who are able to access this care, who are watching people and being influenced by people and not taking the time to do their due diligence and really understand if this is for them or not. And then you want to take into account, like I said, some YouTubers, I mean, there has to be a balance, right? Because I know I've seen some YouTubers who or on one side saying you're not trans, telling people who they are and who they're not. And I don't agree with that. You know, I'm not here at all to tell you who you are and who you're not. So I don't agree with that. That's way too far on one side of the spectrum of we cannot sit here and tell people who they are and who they're not. And on the whole other side of the spectrum, you know, and police them and gatekeep them. We can't do that. And on the whole other side of the spectrum, we can't, you know, try to be super inclusive to everybody and coddle everybody's feelings and make them feel like, you know, yeah, whatever you say about yourself is right. It's okay to have a balance where you say, hey, look, just think about these decisions, or hey, look, this is the potential for that outcome that of what the decisions that you're making. These are the potential consequences. And you know, hey, like there are some, you know, layers, if you will, on what it means to be trans. Because right now, you know, if we don't have a sit down and come together as a community and say, okay, what does it really mean to be trans? Other than just saying you don't identify with how you were born. I know that's really the main thing, is not identifying with the gender that you were born as. That's what it means to be transgender. But I feel like when does it become a little too much? When does it become that you're just, people are, I mean, granted, let people live their lives, do what they want, but when does it become detrimental to the community at large? Because again, look at that situation where you had, you know, maybe you know, she was good at telling them what they wanted to hear. Or maybe, you know, there's so many factors in this. Does this make sense of what I'm saying? So I really just want to open up the conversation. How do we as a community do better? It's helping people make decisions that are going to be good for them by giving them all the best information possible, as well as protecting ourselves so that we're not in a situation where we will lose access to care because of one person, or have to fight even more to regain rights or care because of somebody else who may go and do something like this. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at with this case. I think it's a little bit, I'm going to be honest, I'm not, no hate towards this girl, but it's a little ridiculous for an adult to sit there and say, well, it's somebody else's fault, even though I chose to go through with these medical procedures. Because at the end of the day, you always have a choice. You could literally be sitting in the hospital bed and they could be ready to roll your eyes back and you could say, nah, forget it, I don't want to. And guess what? They have to let you go. They can't force you to have surgery. They can't force you to inject yourself on a weekly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly, however you do it. They can't force you to inject yourself. Nobody can force you to do anything. So, you know, I think that on some level, I see that there's an explosion happening on social media as well, like whether it's YouTube, TikTok, of trans people. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have the internet in order to connect all of us and to be able to talk to one another and get advice from one another and get information from one another, because unfortunately there's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of information available to us in the medical community. So to be able to share our experiences with one another, it's such a beautiful thing. But at the same time, it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary when you have it, almost people, in a sense, it's become like glorified, and like it's a beautiful thing. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of, to being trans, and it should, you know, you should be celebrated. But at the same time, I feel like we got to do better. We got to find a way to really make it so that we're not harming anyone, in the sense of they're able to make decisions. People are able to make decisions for themselves, but they have the best information available to make the best decisions for themselves and understand the long-term consequences of actions. Because I understand what it meant to be 16, 17, 18 years old and never really truly grasping time. Not even as an adult, sometimes it's hard to grasp what time is and how long consequences can be from here to, you know, however amount of time. And I understand that, but, you know, yeah, like, just let me know what you guys think. What do you think about the UK ban? What do you think about people who detransition and people who transition? And what are your thoughts here? What is the middle ground where everybody can be as safe as possible and still have autonomy of themselves and also learn accountability for themselves? So that's kind of it that I have for this video. I'm sorry if it was super long. I just found this article very intriguing. I'm going to link it down below. And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so. I appreciate it. And I will see you on the next video. Peace.